This is the Monday Night Men's Forum. I am Matt of A Farm Hop Life, and tonight we have
Homestead of Pain. I've been
yes,
posting content on TikTok more and more, so go check it
good,
out.
good. The one and only Homestead of Pain. Thanks for being here, man. I thought I was gonna have to cancel because
I mean, if you need to, that's fine.
no. So I pushed it back because I'm heading out of town tomorrow, and I hate having to leave to come do this before my son goes to bed.
Mm-hmm.
And so he like got it from his nap super late or something like that, and so he was not gonna go down
Yeah,
without a fight. And so
yeah,
I was like, I hope we can just bump it.
yeah.
So here we are. Yeah, cool. Let's tonight we're gonna continue the collapse now, avoid the rush, and focus on water. But before we do that, let's do personal event.
I kind of forgot them all.
Forgot them all.
Yeah.
I mean, you had your. I know you can't go into details, but you had your new job, right? You
Oh,
started that.
yeah. That was great. That was fantastic. I ended up making 200 at the end of the day, and it was great. It was great. It was really fun. It was so fun. I pretty much just ran the kitchen by myself. I just started doing what everybody else was doing, and then just kind of made them move out of the way, doing it for them.
You need to learn how to delegate because it sounds like you got there. You had to get up super early and you stayed pretty late, right?
Yeah. So
I
I,
mean, it was
I
a
got
long
up.
day.
Oh yeah. I mean, it felt bad because I got up at 2:30 in the morning, drove for about an hour, and then drove for another hour. Get to a point where if I don't want to know how to get there without having to follow somebody, I can just drive myself and it'll be just an hour. And then we got there about 5, and then we started to set up and started cooking. I was manning the grill. I cooked, I don't even know how many burgers and hot dogs and sausage and bacon and all that. And then I just started getting more energetic as the day grew on, and I was like doing more and more. This one guy, he was doing the window and making sure we had coffee. And then I just started making the coffee. It's like, look, I can make the coffee. It's good. Um, they were standing there measuring out like 5 tablespoons, and I just measured those 5 heaping tablespoons. It's a cup, so I just do 1 scoop, make the coffee, move on. And then I started just listening to the window and just starting taking the orders from. And so he just basically sat down after 4 hours, and then the other lady who was helping, she was tired because they didn't go to sleep last night or the night before. And then she was making everything. And then I just started cooking and making and doing it all, taking the money, making the change. Yeah, it was great.
You you're something else, dude. I don't even know how to put it. Just like
They were super excited, super thrilled, and happy with me. So I mean,
they should have been.
I outworked everybody almost,
Sounds like it.
and it was a slow day. So I think we sold about $1,200 worth of food, and that was a slow day.
That was a slow day. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But you said it was going to get busier.
Oh yeah, maybe 2 or 3 times as many people as it goes on.
Nice. Do you get paid hourly or do you get tips or both?
We get tips and then we just kind of pool it and then divide it.
Did you just take them all because you just did everyone's job?
No, we just divided it all. I ended up coming home with more than I thought I would. I mean, I came home with 200 cash, so I'm not going to complain. If you
Sure.
count the hours I actually worked, it was probably like 16.5 an hour, and then no taxes. Then I have to, factor in gas,
Not
which
bad.
wasn't a whole lot.
Not too bad.
Yeah, and it
Nice.
was so entertaining. It was so much fun.
That does seem like your pace,
Yeah,
the restaurant
It was.
part or
It,
serving, I
it
guess.
really was, and I outpaced everybody else, and so I just kind of took over the kitchen.
I'm surprised you have the patience for a garden.
That's why I don't stop.
Plants, I suppose you're constantly planting new things for succession planting and whatnot.
I try.
Plants are like are the slowest things in the world.
Yeah, you have to
Um,
learn some patience and care, but I do try.
Dude, just wait till you have kids.
Yeah.
It'll just seem like a week or a day is a week or something. I don't know. And then they're too old. And then you get sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Then you just have another one.
then you're secession
Yeah.
implanting. You just constantly have babies.
Yeah. Yeah.
My personal event, my wife picked up our half peg, and then I posted a picture on Twitter and Instagram. And so we invested $1,500 in having like stocking up the freezer. And of course, Jeremy had to be a dickhead, and he's like, "I thought I was going to see a picture of a deer in there." No deer. Did not get any venison this year.
I thought your neighbor shot that one.
He did, but that's for him. Apparently, he needs to fill, which is whatever. He's going to eat his freezer first, and then I get whatever extra. So
that don't sound fair to me, but okay. You should at least get a third since it was on your land.
That's kind of what I thought, but whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. I ain't gonna be pissy about it. So
yeah.
If there's more that come by for him to shoot, then I get that one or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
Whatever. We are expecting crazy cold temps. And so man, I got
around Christmas, right?
No, like this week. Like
well, this week is Christmas.
No. Sunday is Christmas, dude.
That's okay.
It's less than a week. It's on Sunday, which is the start of the new week.
Okay.
How do you organize your calendar? Does it start on a Monday?
Play semantics. No, it's just
I want to play semantics. I got nothing but semantics.
Okay. Well, Christmas Eve is this week.
That's true. That is true.
I think it's supposed to get down to 12 here. I have no idea what it's like up there.
-25.
Yeah, you can miss me with that.
Where I'm going for work is going to be -51 with wind chill.
Where are you going again?
Dickinson, North Dakota.
Okay. Yeah, you can miss me with that one too.
Yeah, I saw. I don't know how it came by. I saw it was a trucker on TikTok about him like sitting in a Walmart parking lot, and man, it looked like North Dakota in the winter. And I'm not terribly thrilled. I'm like, half my bag that's packed is in case that we get, because we're driving. In case we get stuck on the side of the road or something.
Are you gonna take 2 bags?
Am I gonna take 2 bags? What do you mean?
I mean, you said your bag has stuff in it since you're driving in case you get stuck. Are you gonna just take 2 instead of 1 to have more?
Yeah. Yep. So I've got like 1 bag that has like way too much stuff in it. I'm gonna end up. I tucked the other bag just empty in my primary bag. So when I get to the office in the morning, I can divvy it up and take the heavy duty layers out of my main bag. So, But yeah, we don't want to get stuck on the side of the road and freeze to death. So,
that doesn't sound fun.
But we're good through it. So, claps now. Water. This one's interesting because I'm bad at it. This one's that I personally don't have a active storage method of water.
Yeah, we don't have any at all. We were gonna put one up with about like 5 or 6 IBC totes, and then we came to the realization that why do this now if we're seriously looking and considering at moving, which we got a really positive, flood of information from that. We pulled the title to the house and all the county records, and we should be good. There's really, it's already been through probate. There's nothing else that should really stand in the way. No family members coming out and trying to lay claim after we've already bought it. So there should be. Now we're just kind of got to get a price and then get a game plan. So, but yeah, when we get there, it really kind of impresses me how much water you can catch in a specific amount of surface area. Like if you have like the water that you collect, the water that runs off your house, you probably would have more than enough for water for a year after a couple storms.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
And
you
then
people in the South. So I was in Louisiana last week. I Everyone that lives in the South just likes it hot and wet. That's what I've determined.
oh no,
That's all
absolutely
you like.
not.
Yes,
Look,
yes,
I'm not a swamp man, okay? I don't like it. I don't like it hot and wet.
yes, you do. That's why you live in Georgia. And no, no thanks.
No,
It,
we do have high humidity, but I bet it's nothing like Louisiana. It can't be.
well, maybe,
It's like 8 hours for me. It can't be.
it's like 8 hours for me. Maybe. I'm just doing blanket statements because it's easier that way. So, but yeah, I was kind of impressed how much water you can basically just like trip over down there because it was like it was very clay,
Yeah,
like lots and lots of clay, and so the water just is just sitting on the top. It's not penetrating the ground. It's got like nowhere to go, and then it
yeah. So
rained a
we have
lot.
several fields here around us that they'll get completely flooded. Maybe just the whole field get completely flooded at like some low spots because it's got runoff from the road, the train tracks, and all the bunch of stuff, and it'll just sit there for maybe a week or two before it goes away.
Well, where I live, we get 19 inches of precipitation a year, and so we are going to actually hire a guy to do a plan, to build a plan for us to be able to store more water.
Yeah.
Do swales and maybe like little catchments here and there because there's like some unique features on the property.
We get about 45 to 50 inches of precipitation.
I would drown to death.
Sometimes I do. You know, it's my hair.
You
I
mean
hate it because
sweat?
it messes up my hair a lot. It's not great for my hair.
You don't like it because it gives you a bad hair day. That's fine.
Yeah, it's by far my best quality. So,
Ooh, look at this. We got long story here.
awesome. We can hear some gravel.
Hey guys,
Welcome, long story.
I'm not farming by headlamp tonight, so
Yeah, that's good.
no gravel, no animal sounds. I'm in the house now.
Oh, it was good. It was a good soundtrack.
Yeah,
You
well,
could just call it crunchy
I'm
business.
crunchy, yeah, man. Cool. How's it going tonight?
Good. Thank you for being here. We're just getting started really about water storage or like, I guess doesn't have to be storage, because one thing that I was thinking about for this episode in terms of like if the shit were to hit the fan, what would you do about water? And when we did our interview, you told me that you bought this hand pump system that can be installed on top of your existing well, and if you lose power, you can just, like Little House on the Prairie, just start going over there and pumping it.
Yep.
That is on my list of things to get because I like that a lot. That sounds pretty sweet. But if the well dries up, then
Yeah, that's one thing we don't have is a well here, nor I think at the place we're going. There was one dug, but we don't know if it's usable.
you haven't got it tested?
No, it does. It's basically just a big hole in the ground. It is from like the early 1920s early 1900s, like 1940s, 1920s.
Gotcha. We're thinking about two different wells then. You're talking about an old school well, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking of one that with like a 4-inch,
A good
5-inch
one.
casing. Yeah, a good one. So, long story. What other methods do you have for water?
Well, I've got quite a story with water. So when we lived in
Is it long?
it is a long story. Now, when we lived in the in suburbs, I had 7 rain barrels attached to the downspouts of the house, and then I had 12 55-gallon barrels filled with water that we um, sanitized using essential oils and hydrogen peroxide. We didn't want to use any chlorine. And so we had the way that I figured it with that amount of water, we would be able to handle the needs of the family for, somewhere between 1 and 2 months without any water from the outside. We also had, Berkey filters and things like that, which, some stuff came out recently that Berkeys aren't what they were cracked up to be. But, we've
I have
used
heard
them
that.
for a long time and they've worked well for us. So I don't know, we haven't
Isn't
had
it
tested.
just like certifications? Really, that's the hoopla about that.
I think it has to do with certain chemicals, and I'm not sure what to make of that because I'm more concerned about microbes and chemicals where I am. Although in other scenarios, certainly chemicals would be maybe a major issue. But
It
right
could be the
here,
chemicals that they use to make it and the materials they use to make it. I think some thing about it was, the plastic breaking down over time.
yeah, I saw something about it couldn't take out choline. But I don't even know how dangerous that is or what the parts per million are. Yes, I don't know any of the stats on that, but
Sure.
yeah. But anyway, so that was the situation there. And then one day I had to dump out all those barrels and move to Chile. And so we moved to Chile. We lived on the river, on the Araucan River. Let's see, I'm saying that wrong. Anyway, we lived on the river that flowed into the Mapocho River. Arayan, I said it wrong. Arayan is the river we lived on. And the water treatment plant for where we lived was upstream from us. And every spring during the snow melt, the plant would get overwhelmed and you'd have a boiled water advisory for like 3 or 4 weeks. And we just used the Berkey the entire time. We never had a problem. We never got sick, nothing. And so, that was kind of that was our first experience. And then we moved to this property, this remote property. There's a lot of water. We live in a zone that's about a mile from the Bush River here in Newberry County in South Carolina. And around 300 acres drains across our 100 acres ish, just, big round numbers. That's not exactly what it is, but, so there's a ton of water here. I mean, we don't worry about water. That being said, the wells we have one that's 30 gallons a minute, and the other 2 are like 4 to 7 gallons a minute. So they're not super productive. It's very heavy clay soils here. Lots of so there's a loam topsoil, sandy loam topsoil, clay subsoil, and then granite. And if you can find the veins in the rock, you can get a lot of water. If you can't, you won't get a lot of water, because the clay is just so thick, so heavy. So, we have a hand pump on one well. We are going to be putting a solar powered pump down that same hole. So we'll have the ability to pump it by hand or with solar power. We already have the solar mounted. We just haven't run the well pump into the hole yet. Waiting on my well guy to come over and help us do that because it's 120 feet of sucker pipe on that hand pump, and we'll need to lift that up. And I don't feel very comfortable trying to do that with like the front end loader on the tractor. You know what I mean? So we're going to have the well guy come over and help us do that. But yeah, so I think we've been through quite a few different scenarios just in that little bit. I've lived in Mexico and experience what it is to be very sick from having water that wasn't clean. And you know, I'm pretty passionate about it. Ended up teaching a class on water purification at a prepper seminar one weekend about 4
Oh
years
yeah.
ago. Yeah, that was pretty fun. Just just talking about some of those same experiences, and how we different filters I've used camping and hiking and stuff, and all that, because we've used like the Sawyer Mini, I've used the Catadine, I've used tablets for purification. Kind of run the gamut, pretty much everything, I guess. I don't know, but yeah. So
I have tried. There's a excuse me. There's a water filter for like hikers and stuff called Grail, Grayl, I think. It's about $60 for a water bottle. But so instead of the water going in the top and then gravity having the water go through the filter, you actually have one there's a sleeve. The inside sleeve has the filter. So you scoop the outside sleeve in water and there's like a fill line, and the inside sleeve you push through that filter on the bottom and the clean water comes up through the bottom. And my wife and I used that when we were traveling in Asia and never got sick from drinking the water. I mean, even like, Hong Kong airport would do it in the airports too, Bangkok airport, because I'm not just drinking out of the tap there. So it's just not worth the risk, and it was easy. So
yep. And I think there's quite a few filters that are effective, and it's just a matter of selecting one and then taking care of it, making sure it's cleaned and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the biggest challenge and danger with almost everything to do with survival is not maintaining your equipment. Like everything from tents and sleeping bags to water filters, anything that you're using that you depend on for your basic necessities can deteriorate through use or lack of care,
or just environmental damage.
Yep.
Like water pulled up on my greenhouse and just completely collapsed it, like overnight. So
that was such a sad scene when you sent those pictures.
That was kind of just like me and Dad took like 2-3 hours to put that together. We set up all the lights and everything. It was pretty slick. And then somehow the wind blew it down a little bit, caught water, and it probably caught 12 gallons of water and just crushed the whole thing.
That's not a lot, but
it's like 80 pounds.
Yeah, I suppose.
12 gallons of water would be like 96 pounds. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's even more.
Yeah. So what kind of other methods of like water storage? Because like we have a hot tub, but obviously it has chlorine in it. Now I've heard you can like treat the water somehow to basically remove the chlorine and make it drinkable.
Yeah, I think one of the things about chlorine is that people are kind of like they're more afraid of it than they should be, probably. And I was somewhat making fun of the fact that we use hydrogen peroxide and essential oils to, because we didn't want to use chlorine. But if you leave the container open for 24 hours, it'll basically all oxidize. And at that point, you have an inert substance that's not going to be harmful. Now, whether the chlorine itself, whether there's some sort of byproduct or whatever, some sort of metabolite or whatever, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going on there, but chemically. But
when it comes down to it, right now we have the luxury to pick and choose what we use. We don't want, this in our food or that in our food when breaking down, plastics and chemicals and carcinogens and everything. But when it comes down to it, you're going to drink what water you can get. Screw the chlorine as long as it's not a debilitating disease. You're going to drink it.
Yeah, I would say right now I care about what kills me slowly, but in that situation, I'm only going to care about what kills me quickly.
Exactly. Because for me, one thing that it's been on the back of my mind recently is people storing water in just your empty mason jars. But I have 790 mason jars. That's a lot. That's a lot of place to have to store all that.
Yep.
And then so it'd be different if they were all in use in the pantry, but in storage, it's just kind of sitting there. They're packed up nicely in boxes. But what happens if a shelf breaks? You've lost a whole lot of mason jars.
I
Well-
started saving like gallon jugs from the store after we'd finish off a gallon of milk, and then I would clean it out and put water in it, and then just a few drops of chlorine, like
Yep.
5, I think was the ratio, 5 or 6 to a gallon.
Mhm.
And I even built like little shelves under my stairs to store the jugs. Well, after a couple of weeks, I found one of them had like collapsed, and I'm like, what? Well, it got a pinhole leak, and all that water went all over the floor and other stuff we were storing under the stairs. And so I got rid of all those jugs. I mean, it was like 40 gallons of water or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I even made a little video about it.
I
was told by somebody not to do that, and I did it anyways. I'm like, let's just see what happens, and that's what happens. So now I need to figure it out.
I forgot another part of our water story. We used to go to a spring called Healing Springs, and we would get like 150 gallons of water every trip. So we'd go like every 2 weeks, and that would be our drinking, cooking water.
Are these the ones that have like the tap at like next to the road or something?
Yeah, this one is actually it was really a cool story. It was used in the Revolutionary War by both sides. They would send their wounded there, and there's a church near it, and it's kind of like an extension of the parking lot of the church where you can go and park. And that acre of land where those springs are, it was bequeathed to God. Like literally, it says bequeathed to God by whoever owned it, whatever years ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I'm not sure, if it's like a community thing to maintain it, but it's got taps that have been, like they developed the springs, and there's like, I think 3 or 4 main springs that have like a cement pad with pipes sticking up out of the ground, and you just go put your jug under the tap and it fills up. The problem with that was that there's a lot of cotton production in that area, and you could tell in the summer, especially when they were using those pivot irrigation systems, they were just draining the aquifers, man, because it would just start slow to trickle. It'd take forever to fill up a jug. But we use only glass. That's what I was going to tell you. Is like we use glass and those big 5-gallon plastic.
Carboys.
We use glass 1-gallon jugs, and we use the plastic. Garrafones in Spanish. I can't remember what it's called in English. Carboy, is that the one? Is that the word for it?
I know the carboys are basically like a ale jug. It's got the little loop through it.
Yeah, that's what the gallon jugs we had. Yeah,
Yeah, I've got about 12 of those.
Yeah, we had 20 5-gallon plastic jugs, and we had like another 20 or 30 of them.
Are these like the big kind of square industrial ones?
Not square. They're round, like the ones you get in the grocery store. Like if you want to go get, or they have like in an office, they turn upside down in the thing.
Like a Culligan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was looking at getting the square ones from Walmart. About like they hold like like 3 gallons 2 gallons each or something like that, and you can stack them. That's what I was looking at for water storage, but haven't done that yet. So,
well, I think that it probably makes sense to keep, even when you're in a situation where I am, where you have access to plenty of water, to keep, couple of gallons per person for 3 or 4 days worth handy.
Right.
We have quite a few backup processes that we can enact to keep our well running. Combustible or what do you call it? Man, I don't know why I'm thinking in Spanish right now, but I was going to say combustible, which is fuel, but we have like a gas or diesel generators, and we have some solar, and we have the hand pump. We have ways to get water out of the ground, but having a few gallons on hand, like if something happens and the well freezes, like with the super cold weather we're going to have here, and I know super cold for me is relative, but it's going to be like in the mid-teens this weekend. If the well were to freeze, it'd be good to have 10 or 12 gallons of water handy that I can just get to and flush a toilet, drink, make some soup, whatever. So I think it's prudent to have some stored, kind of no matter what your situation. But,
yeah. So, one of the big things with water storage, not just for yourself, but it's for the stuff you eat and get things from you do eat. So what I sent Matt through Telegram is what I got from work that I had, and then I turned them into water feeders or waterers. One 16-gallon, and then the rest are I think like 7-gallon. And so I could fill all those up, and then just kind of have them there, and then I can just switch out their water and just change it around without having to do too much. And then if it ever comes down to it, I could drink it.
Yeah. I have a food grade, yes. I have a food grade IBC tote that's black.
Yeah.
Apparently, if you leave water in darkness for like 60 days, all the bacteria and stuff die. Apparently, that's how the wells, how wells are able to be anti. So, one of the guys, he had 2 of them. He let me have one of them. He was telling me, about that feature of them. And I was like, oh man, that's pretty cool. So it came right down to it. I could just fill that thing up, wait 60 days, and there you go.
And then just filter it through like I forgot the name of it, but you put, rocks and charcoal and sand and all that, and then just filter it through that. And then if you need to, process it again, and then you're good.
Yep.
There's a lot of people probably like, well, water takes up, like to store water, it takes up a lot of space and it's heavy. So like, where would you put it? Like, so, or they just, because of those reasons, they just don't want to do anything. Well, it's like,
yeah,
there's not a whole lot that has to go wrong for you to have dirty water or no water at all. So
yeah,
my old boss, at their brand new house, they had their well dug, and it lasted about a month, and then all of a sudden it just started pumping sand, like just nothing but sand. So what happened is at the bottom of the well, it caved in, and then so it just like was just sucking up sand, and so they just had to. What did they have to do? I think they just basically had to keep pumping the sand until it cleared itself out. But for 3 weeks, they were using their neighbor's like hose, like off their hydrant in their yard.
Yeah.
And so like that, I mean, yeah, a lot of people would be like, I don't have a well, I'm on the city, I'm fine. Well, it seems like once a year my parents' place has like a boil water advisory, and when those get put out, it's because there's something wrong with the water now, not like, in a couple days you're gonna have bad water. Like the water's bad in your coming out of your tap now, and so you've already been drinking contaminated water, and it's too late. Like,
yeah,
should have been filtering it beforehand, not waiting until you get told to filter it.
Well, I mean, I think the municipal water supplies are pretty suspect anyway, from the point of view of, I mean, there's a bunch of problems with them, especially the old ones. But you can have everything from the things they add to it, like fluoride and chlorine.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good for your teeth.
Yeah. and it lowers your IQ and all that.
Yeah.
Gives you bone cancer.
And then you have the issues of, the pipes themselves and what kind of contaminants are being shed into the water by the pipes themselves, whether they're either biological contaminants or chemical contaminants like the lead in Flint, Michigan. I mean, that's a disaster, right?
Yep. And there was something in Jackson, Mississippi too recently.
Yep. The problem there.
That was just a mess. That was just a clown world mess.
I don't remember exactly what the issue was for Jackson, Mississippi.
They replaced all the people who knew what they were doing.
Oh.
Basically.
And I've also heard, stories of like alarms going off because someone got a decimal wrong, in the system, and they added like a whole bunch of whatever it was, soda ash or whatever it was, to make it more alkaline.
Oh gosh.
And the problem with that so much that it's going to get to you and it's going to be too alkaline for you or too acidic for you. The problem is that change in chemistry can actually affect the things that leach into the water from the from the transport mechanism.
The surfaces, that it comes in contact with just to get to you, sure.
So I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not a chemist. I'm not an expert on any of this stuff. I just am very generally suspect of when the government's involved in providing me with stuff, I kind of trust, verify.
Not a bad way to go. So I have to drive to Missoula now for work, and when I have to drive through Reserve Street Bridge, for those who are familiar with it, it stinks because the water treatment plant is right there, and I don't know why treating water has to be so stinky. So like basically that's what you're drinking. You're drinking that stink when you drink Missoula water.
Well, have you guys ever, there's a P&G makes a water purification packet that has a thing in it that causes all the solids to kind of coagulate, and then it drops to the bottom. Have you ever seen this thing in action?
No,
it's pretty cool. But they have this thing. It's P&G makes it. You can find them on Amazon, other places. If you're going to buy them, make sure you get them that are recent manufacture, because it's got a 3-year expiration date. You don't want to get something that's like already 2 years old, But basically, you can take like muddy water, dump a pack of that in it, stir it up, wait 10 minutes, and it'll be clear as can be. And it's got
Does it just settle to the bottom?
Yep. And basically, the municipal water systems work that way, especially the ones that pull water out of like rivers or whatever. Now, if they're processing sewage, that's a whole different thing. And I don't even want to comment on that, but because that can have antibiotics and all kinds of different chemicals.
Oh yeah, and it doesn't
drugs.
It'll
antidepressants.
You flush a whole bunch of stuff down the toilet.
Yeah.
That stuff's not going anywhere. You can't filter that out.
But if they're using like river water, whatever, or lake water, whatever, they'll use that precipitant in the large tanks. It'll cause everything to precipitate out, and then they're pumping water off the top of that. So they're the cleanest water, and then they run it through all the chemical treatment and additional filtration, and then it goes out into the distribution system, the network. But that little packet's pretty cool, and I use it more as a demonstration of how municipal. When I was doing the class, I use it more as a demonstration of how the municipal work chemically, just to give people an idea, but also, handed them out as part of the, if you came to the class, you got one for free kind of thing. Because it's a pretty cool thing to have in your pack, if you're bugging out, take a jug of water and, suck it out of a mud puddle and off you go.
I actually have that chemical with me for my hot tub, and so it does that coagulation thing, like it binds together and makes it basically a bigger particle for the filter in my hot tub to catch it and not cycle it through the system. So it binds to the filter easier. Has anyone here used a life straw?
No.
I have some, but I have not used them.
I got a couple.
I have one also, and I've never used it. I was just curious if anyone has
I've used
tried it.
the Sawyer Mini. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Yeah, so I've used that, and I've used it both using the straw and also using it basically to filter through. I've used it in the line for a Camelback, and I've used it as a gravity thing as well. So those are pretty handy. I like having those around when I'm backpacking and stuff.
Long story. It's kind of funny that you are so particular about your water, because I am too. It's like one of my weird things that I like to brag about. Like, we have really clean water here. Because, like, dude, when we first got our well put in, we opened up that hydrant and it was just brown. I mean, it was super rusty. I mean, it was like the safe level of iron determined by the EPA is 0.3 parts per million. We had 6, not 0.6, 6 parts per million. and so
You should just sifted it and started forging with it.
Good. And so we had this system set up, and I was replacing the filters like every 2 months. And finally I went to my wife. I'm like, we are burning through cash just replacing the filters here. And so we ended up spending $1,000 on an iron filter. That's all it does, is just filter iron. And then some a-hole came by and said, because our water is also hard, and he's like, oh yeah, water softener would have done both those things. I'm like, I was told that my iron content is too high for it to filter, for a water softener to filter out the iron. He's like, nah, it would have done it fine. I'm like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't want to deal with the salt anyways. But I guess there is a new system out there that uses citrus in a filter, like a cartridge filter, to make the water soft. It's like Nova or something like that. I'll look it up quick for anyone that's interested. But I feel like cartridges are easier to deal with than salt. So, what's the name of that hand pump that you have there? Long story.
So there's lots of them. The one that we bought is called a Bison, and it's a stainless steel pump, so it's on the higher end in terms of price. There's others like the Simple Pump and others that are much less expensive. So there's a range of options there, but we went with the Bison. It's a very beautiful. It's almost like an art piece, but yeah, that's what we went with.
I think I looked it up after our interview, and I didn't think they were that bad on price.
I don't think it's bad. It's just that they're like there are others that are much less expensive. I mean, I think when we were pricing them, the Bison was 2,000 or 3,000, and the Simple Pump was like maybe 700 or 800, something like that. So now, I mean, honestly, I felt like the Bison was worth it because it's all stainless steel and the construction is just, I mean, it's just bulletproof. So I don't know what those prices would be today. I'm sure they've changed just because of all the, I mean, pretty much everything made of steel seems like it's doubled in the last 2 years, but.
Standard deep well pump? I don't know. Oh man, you gotta call them to get a quote. But yeah, that looks super nice. I like that a lot.
I don't like it when they do that. I wish they just give you like this price point to this price point, so you have just an estimate in your head on what it would be.
You said it was like $2,000 to $3,000 at the time?
Yeah, I want to say it was that. We bought the sucker pipe and everything as a package, and it was a little bit more than that after we added all that in. But I think it was around 3, I want to say. But that was in 2000, probably 16, 15 or 16.
But they're more. But they're way more.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think that they're quite a bit more now.
Well, I'll submit a quote so I can tell everybody how much it costs for a standard deep well, because I think that's what I would need.
Yeah,
But
that well that we put it on was 350 something feet deep, and the sucker pipe is 120 feet. So we, that sucker pipe it goes down enough to where you can pull. I want to say you can pull like 70 or 80 gallons. Let's see. I'm not thinking right. But anyway, there's quite a bit you can pull out of it, draw out of the well before you get, the sucker pipe would be not touching water. Um, even assuming it doesn't really refill, but it does refill, like I said, between 4 and 7 gallons a minute. So, you'd have to, if I'm running a pump that pumps 30 gallons a minute, I could run it dry for until it refills, but I'm going to put a solar pump on it that only does like 6 or 8 gallons a minute, and I should never have a problem.
sure.
And I'll never have a problem with the hand pump. I just couldn't pump fast enough to ever do that. But
That's true. This is that one brand that I was thinking about for the like a water softener using a cartridge, like you can see, instead of using salt. So that's that. Anyways, I don't even know how you pronounce that. Nuovo, Nuvo, H2O. But I'm trying to think of. Do you guys have ponds? Is there a pond on your property?
Yeah. So there's actually a pond on our property now in the back. It is completely dry because the guy who tried to make it bigger dug from the bottom and kind of broke the clay barrier that kind of keeps it in. So we'd have to repack it with clay, dig it out a little bit more, and then reseal it. And because the spring's still there, I dug a hole maybe a foot down, and it's full of water constantly. And then, but we're leaving in the next, year or two, hopefully. But my grandmother has a runoff pond that I think there's a spring attached, but it would have to go through like heavy filtration before I would really drink it, because it's like it's like right off the highway at the corner, and so yeah, there's that. It's healthy. There's frogs and fish and turtles in it, but I would just really process it first.
Oh yeah, of course. Yep.
But then another thing though is, if you have any sort of like enclosure for your animals to get in, if you just hook gutters to it, and then just have barrels and maybe have it even connected to their feeders, and then maybe just put in like a couple drops of bleach for them, and then that's a way you can keep them watered.
yeah, we have a lot of water collection. I haven't done it here at the building we live in, but we have rainwater collection on the little shed where we keep the solar equipment, and that keeps a 55-gallon drum easily filled. I want to add more to it, but I haven't gotten around to it. But rainwater collection is fantastic. We had, like I said, 7 rain barrels at the suburban home we lived in, and I mean, we watered the entire. We had about 300 square feet of raised beds in a backyard. It was a tiny little backyard, but we had 6 chickens and all these raised beds, a bunch of fruit trees, and we watered all the plants out of that. Even when we had droughts, we were basically fine to continue watering out of them. Just that 300 or 400 gallons of water was enough. It's amazing how far it can go.
So what about how do you plan for livestock? Like just do the math essentially?
Yeah, well, we have dairy cows, so that's that's a challenge because they need 30 gallons a day.
Holy cow!
Dang.
Yeah,
That is a challenge for sure.
Is that every day they're in milk?
yeah. I mean, I don't know if it was like they need access to or they will consume that, but I think on some of the hotter days they're drinking, a lot. I mean, I can tell you when we fill up a 60 gallon stock tank, yeah, they'll empty it. Two of them will empty it pretty quickly.
Wow. When cows drink, I feel like they drink half and spill half on the ground. So maybe it's really more like 15. They just need to.
Could be.
They just need to be more careful. Teach them how to drink through a straw. I'm trying to think of some other water storage and filtering methods that we haven't covered yet.
Well,
or
I'll
reasons
mention
why you would.
I have one more thing I'll mention about water storage. Those barrels that we had in the suburban home, we kept them, and now they have been painted black, and they're sitting along the south-facing wall of our hoop house. Trying to use them as a solar, basically
Heat
thermal
source.
mass to
Yeah.
shed heat at night. It's not as effective as we hoped. It's just I don't think it's enough mass, to be honest with you. I think if we had, instead of 12, if we had enough to basically cover the entire wall, it'd probably be significant. But 12 on a 60-foot wall just isn't enough. We probably need 35 or something. But anyway, that was an idea that it just wasn't enough. Now, the other thing, though, is we do have two 55-gallon rain barrels filled with water sitting under one of our citrus trees to protect it from the frost, and that does work very well.
You just set it next to it?
It's literally sitting. There's two of them sitting on either side of it, so they're both kind of under it.
That's kind of cool.
One thing that I saw a guy do on a permaculture farm is that he was using a body of water as he's got the thermal mass of the body of water, but then he was also trying to heat up like this south-facing hillside. And I don't know if this is legitimate or not, but he said that the sun reflecting off the surface of the water and bouncing off of it and hitting the side of the hill would help in this little microclimate that he built or something like that. Is there something to that, or is that a little bit of a reach?
I don't know. It sounds like it could do something. You can burn an ant with reflection through a microscope.
Are you using water as a reflection?
I mean, is that not what he's doing?
I think there's probably something to it, but I would think that the effect is very small. But a lot of those microclimates, the effect doesn't need to be large. So maybe it's fine,
Or he just thinks it's fine.
Or maybe it's just an experiment just to see what happens. Because there was a bunch of things that he was doing in that area to create this microclimate. So I can't remember all the other things. But that was the one that was like, I don't know about that. Just curious.
Well, the body of water itself, I think, is more significant than the reflection. My sister lives on a lake, and they can literally plant citrus, next to the water, and even in our 8A, climate, next to the water, it's like a microclimate basically that is more like an 8B or even a 9 in terms of winter, and so that's a much better. It's just a huge heat sink. The other thing, we have a 1,000-gallon cistern. One of our wells is powered by solar. Feeds the water into a 1,000-gallon cistern. That 1,000-gallon cistern is such a large thermal mass that I don't have to heat the pipes or anything around it. Even when it's extreme cold. I mean, it's been down to 11 degrees, and I've not had a problem with any of the plumbing around that cistern because it's just such a massive solar, such a heat sink. The water comes out of the ground at 55 degrees, sits in that tank, maybe gets heated up by the sun a little bit, and then by the overnight it's fine.
So it's above ground?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I always thought about
tanks.
Oh, the big above ground tanks?
Yeah, 1,000-gallon above ground tank. Yeah.
I would always want to do a underground.
Yeah, I was
tank.
fixing to bring that up.
Yes, we didn't talk about that part. Building a cistern or underground water tank or storage. That's another thing. I knew a guy that built one out of cement, 400 gallons under his house.
Holy crap!
That's just a
Yeah,
septic.
I'd like to bury mine if I could,
Right.
just because I don't want to deal with trying to keep it not freezing.
Well, that's a consideration you'd make that I wouldn't even think of.
Right. Right. But yeah, I don't know. It's I've seen them. I've seen the ones that you can just sit on, like they just sit on the ground, and then ones that are in the ground. So like I interviewed a guy off Twitter, Brian Harrington in California. He's got a 2,500 gallon cistern that just sits in his backyard. It's all black, and I think it helps a little bit. I think it does create a little bit of a microclimate in his backyard. Not that he needs it; he's in Southern California, so.
Yeah. Well, I would, if I was going to do rain catchment on the building we live in, I would want to have at least 3,000 gallons of storage, and I would want it to be underground. And I would use a solar pump to get it out of the tanks. But the thing is that those underground tanks are very expensive, man. Those things are
Oh yeah,
thousands of dollars.
yes
And
they
I
are.
just haven't felt like I had the like I don't feel like I have the necessity because we do have lots of other options for water, but it would be really cool if we had a really bad drought for 6 or 8 weeks, and in the heat of the summer, it'd be great to have that as a resource for watering plants or animals or whatever. But yeah, I haven't pulled the trigger on that.
Yeah, that's the big thing that's keeping me from doing that is the expense of it all. That's a lot of plastic. That's a big mold that they use to make those things. So yeah, I remember pricing it out, and I would just go, "Whoa, never mind then." And that's just to buy the damn tank. That's not even to hook it up or dig a hole or anything. So yeah, should
Yeah,
have done it when I was building.
yeah, 2,000 gallon. I just looked it up real quick. There's one on eBay, 2,000 gallons, $5,000. What?
Jeez, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Well, did you guys have anything else that you wanted to talk about, or we didn't mention, or anything?
I think we pretty much got everything I was going to say.
Yeah, I agree.
Hunter, you too.
Yeah, man.
Just
Cool.
do something about it. Don't wait. Don't avoid the problem. Just go through and at least do something. We talked about a lot of different ways you could have water storage. Just pick one and have a small amount of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a big fan of what you're saying there, Grant. Like if it's 2 gallons of water under your kitchen sink, that's a start.
Yeah.
Like don't be shy about just starting with the smallest amount. I mean, the rule of thumb is 2 gallons per person per day. How many people in your household times two? Start with that, then add another day and another day, and then you got 72 hours, and then try to build up to 2 weeks maybe. That's a good
Yeah,
rule of thumb, I would say.
2 weeks should get you by most things.
And in a real crisis, living in a hurricane zone or earthquake or whatever, in a real crisis, you could make that last a little longer than 2 gallons a day would probably be more than you have to have. But
Yeah, like I did the math. That's like 36 gallons of water. If you just have an open, 55-gallon barrel, it's just at the corner of your house, just collecting water when it rains. Throw a lid on it, drop some chlorine in it, and then you're good. You're done.
That's not bad.
Occasionally use it for something, and then let it fill back up.
And if you have water rights somewhere, that's good too.
Yeah, one thing I will add, if you're going to do rain catchment off of your roof and your gutters, you'll want to try to look for a first flush system that will flush some of the debris and stuff out before it starts to collect it.
You talking about the thing that sits on top?
Well, there's two things that are common hardware. One's a diverter, a downspout diverter, which is what I use, but I didn't care about filtering it. And then there's a first flush system that basically takes the first rain that flows off, all the bird poop, leaves, and whatever, and it flushes it down a different pipe. And then there's a float valve. Usually, it's a float valve that pops up and then blocks off that first flush
That's neat.
part of the tube, and then it flows into your cisterns.
Is it
That's
this
something I
first
didn't
one?
mention. Geez, dude, I'm doing this on my phone. I can't see it very
Oh
well.
shoot! Sorry.
Yeah, something like that, I believe. Um, there's multiple ways to build them. I've seen guys just build them, like just buy some PVC and they use like a Y splitter and some some other stuff. I can't remember. A buddy of mine built one. I haven't done it where I am. Something
Well,
to think
it's good
about.
to know that option is there. Yeah.
Well, it just saves you from having to, having contaminants build up, and it saves you from, some of the nastiness that would collect in the tank. It was, one of the things my buddy had to do is he had to go into the tank and clean it out because a bunch of sediment had built up in the bottom of it after a period of time.
No thanks.
So the other thing that when you're plumbing a big tank like that, if you're going to connect more than one, you'll want to have the pipe come. I can see if I can. You want the pipe to come up like a U, so that you're not getting water off the bottom. So have the pipe vertical so the water flows into it like this. That'll help to also avoid transferring sediment between tanks or into the whatever pump system you're using.
Like a P trap?
Kind of like that.
Hmm.
Yeah. So there's just some tricks like that are good to keep in mind that as you get more advanced with it, you might want to look
at. We like to get advanced around here, right, Grant?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, hey, man, I had a mentor that used to say, "Ready or not, begin now."
Yeah.
And I had another.
I'm going to steal that.
Yeah, and I had another basketball. My basketball coach when I played in college, he used to say, basically, right or wrong, make a decision. Yeah. So, like he said, right. What he would say is right or wrong, commit. He was talking about when you're getting back on defense. He said, if you don't commit to one player, then the other players on the team don't know who to commit to. So, right or wrong, commit to somebody, and then the other guy will come, fill in the gap.
Sure.
But right or wrong, commit, and then the other person, ready or not, start now. Begin now. So, words to live by, right?
Like I said, we'll come back this time next year and see what any of us did for rain catchment or water storage, and we'll see who wins.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, Grant, go ahead, plug your TikTok because you love it.
Homestead of Pain on TikTok and Instagram. Come check me out if you want to see what I'm doing.
And you should see what he's doing. It's pretty great. You'll get inspired. He'll send you personalized messages.
I can do that
for $5 a piece.
Yeah, with a picture.
Long story. Go ahead.
Hey man, we're on Facebook. We're working on a webpage. Find us on Twitter or Facebook. Let us know if you want anything here in Central South Carolina. Mostly pork and poultry. Pasture-based, non-GMO. Sustainably raised meats, and check us out.
Awesome. And I am Matt of a Farm Hop Life. You can check us out, farmhoplife.com. Thank you guys for being here, and thank you everybody for watching and listening. Next week we're gonna do a year in review. We're gonna take a break from the Collapse Now series and just talk about how this year went for everybody. So,
I've already been thinking
bring
about
your
what I'm gonna say.
failures and your successes. Mostly your failures.
I don't have that many this year.
You will fail at something in the next week just for something to talk about.
I mean, on purpose?
Yes.
That's not possible.
Break up with your girlfriend.
No.
All right. See you guys.
Later.
All right. Talk to you later.